This is going to be fun. Xbox is worth $23.46 billion a year to Microsoft, and that actually doesn't matter. So here's why it's kind of terrifying. Microsoft can make brutal cuts to their gaming division because it doesn't matter, not compared to where Microsoft wants to go. They can cut hundreds of developers, maybe thousands, and that's happened all in the last few years. The reason why? Microsoft is gargantuan. And those billions that Xbox makes, they're just 8.8% of Microsoft's total revenue. Xbox is just a line item in their budget. Staff are just numbers in a spreadsheet. That's how it is when your headcount is like 200,000 people. But that's all vibes. Do you know what's concrete? Leaked memos that we've read that suggest something worse. That staff need to use AI daily, literally daily, right? They need to do that to keep Microsoft happy. But here's the thing. It seems they're not willing to take this shit anymore, and they are arming themselves against Microsoft's influence. So if you want an Xbox, and that means not just the console, it means development teams, if you want them protected against Microsoft's influence, well, today, we're getting proof of why, and we've got proof of just how bad things can get. Spoiler warning, by the way, it's really goddamn grim. Now, I'll bet this has happened to you. You've got a dead phone battery, and then you're stuck waiting ages for slow old wireless charging to crawl along. Well, that's where today's sponsor, Ugreen's new MagFlow series, comes in and solves the problem, because this is a proper Qi 2 certified 25-watt magnetic charging power bank. It's actually fast. I mean, an iPhone 16 Pro Max gets up to 50% in just 30 minutes. The power bank magnetically snaps on with 9 newtons of force. It's got a really nice grippy finish, so, well, you can actually use your phone while it charges and it just stays there. And as for the design, it's genuinely premium, clean lines, lovely LED display showing you the exact battery percentage, and you've got a built-in USB-C cable that also doubles as a carrying strap, which is real nifty. And at 10,000 milliamp hours, that is 2.5 full iPhone charges, and it's got all the over temperature, over volt, over current, etc. features that Ugreen have got on all of their stuff, so it is damn safe. It's not only that, though. They've also got the 2-in-1 foldable. This is basically awesome for like your, well, if you're traveling, your desk setup, your nightstand. It'll handle your AirPods with the space at the back, your phone up here, and then even this little pop-out charger as an example for your Apple Watch. All awesome, and the Ugreen MagFlow series is available now on Amazon and the Ugreen website, and to get the best price, you can click the links in this video description because the series is new and the launch discounts are live. During the layoffs, Satya Nadella sent out a public memo. He talked about what matters to Microsoft and their shift from a, quote, software factory to an intelligence engine empowering every person. Wow! And in this, 3 business priorities emerged: security, quality, and AI transformation. That those are the things that matter to Microsoft. And if you want to know where Microsoft makes its money, well, here's the breakdown. 35% from server products, 31% from cloud, and together those are $186.21 billion last year. And do you know what's not mentioned once in this? Games, Xbox, the stuff that we care about. And look, it's not some anti-gamer agenda, right? Whenever Xbox wins, Microsoft is actually happy. But it's just not what Microsoft cares about. It's not what they want to invest in. Not like, say, AI. And here's a question for the comments. How much do you think Microsoft can reinvest in AI from firing thousands and cancelling projects? We've actually got the number, and we'll get to that. But it all means one thing. Microsoft can hurt Xbox not out of malice, just out of apathy. When we clear out a forest, it's not because of a burning visceral hatred of birds or some shit. No, it's because we need the wood. Analogies like that are often used for first contact scenarios with alien species, but it does actually apply to here, and with what we've learned, it is no wonder that Xbox staff are protecting themselves. Today's chain of events kicks off a few weeks ago when something massive happened. The entire Diablo team unionized. That's more than 450 people, and it's just the latest Xbox studio to unionize. And every single announcement shares the same story, that staff basically couldn't take it after the latest layoffs. And think about this, we've had 2 financial years in a row ending with game cancellations and studio closures. And that's not counting the quarterly layoffs across all disciplines. They basically arrive like clockwork now. Diablo especially suffered before the acquisition. Crunch, high attrition rates, hostile working environments. But now, those staff want to fight back. And here's what staff in Diablo pointed out, that these unions don't stop layoffs entirely. Indeed, the first contracts only got ratified this summer, which is years after staff first formed the unions. But what it does do is help. As an example, sources told Aftermath that ZeniMax Online's QA department got real improvements after their unionization, and I'll just quote them. They've definitely improved layoff procedures and severance and things like that. For other units, they were able to negotiate immediately after they've gotten notifications of the layoffs and who is being let go, to save some jobs or make a case for saving jobs for people who are essential. So often we see layoffs that are just done line item by line item, but it could turn out that one of the people caught up in that actually know shit that other people in the organization don't know. Those people are actually essential, and I've firsthand personal experience of seeing a number of near misses in that regard with just Xbox stuff that I know. Now, the Diablo team has also talked about the cultural changes post-acquisition. So basically what happened whenever Microsoft owned them. And here's the lowdown. Xbox staff don't actually get the same benefits as Microsoft staff, especially Activision Blizzard King Studios. Wages have not increased notably. Xbox developers are openly protesting Microsoft's military contracts as well, and apparently Microsoft set the FBI on their own staff. That's banter. Meanwhile, the generative AI stuff is creeping around the edges of their workspace, and we've talked about this on the other channel. There was some new stuff with Warcraft marketing, social media teams being seemingly caught up in the mix, and absolutely customer support being big time caught up in the mix, and it certainly has harmed the connection between players and developers. That's just one example, and it is not a one-off, because we now have proof of what happens without protections, and it comes in the form of a company called King. And it seems that King absolutely are the canary in the coal mine, that they are Microsoft's test case, that effectively what Microsoft is mandating for them is what they want for the rest of Xbox. We know that King has unions, but they're not company-wide like Diablo, and that means that Microsoft's impact can be quite a bit more brutal, because staff have less recourse to challenge them via formal means. Back in July, right after the latest layoff wave went public, King lost 200 developers. And mobilegamer.biz reported something kind of shocking, that internal teams at King got cut in half, and their replacements, they were AI tools. So that's lovely. And to add a cherry on top, the laid-off teams had just built those tools. And they were essentially meant to support level design and copywriting. That's what people were told when they were asked to make these tools. But now those tools quite literally have replaced them. And we know that this is Microsoft doing. A source told the outlet, quote, AI was being introduced by Microsoft as mandatory a while ago. The goal for last year, if I recall correctly, was having 70 or 80% daily usage of AI on general tasks. And the goal for this year was to get that up to 100%, so that every artist, designer, developer, even managers have to use it on a daily basis. And this is described as an imposition by Microsoft. And a separate source echoed this. They said that King's leadership were, quote, AI skeptics. And overall, adoption was, quote, very low apart from ChatGPT. And obviously, that's not what Microsoft wants. A recent leaked memo makes this clear, and I'll read from it directly. Using AI is no longer optional. It is core to every role and every level. Essentially, Copilot must be everyone's work partner. Management now includes AI use in performance reviews and in reward schemes. You know that fun little axiom that whenever you set something as a target or a reward, it becomes functionally kind of useless? Oh dear, I have a feeling that that will create some perverse incentives. But when you tell people, use AI or else, what do you expect will happen? Especially because it's not like those people will be using it because they're genuinely interested. I use loads of little AI things here and there, but I drive that. I set my own rules, make my own standards. Nobody's forcing me, and I can use my own judgment as to what is or is not appropriate. Guess what? My dyslexic ass is useless at spelling, and some of the LLM things are pretty useful for a little bit of sanity checks. That's rather different from your boss saying, hey, we need a 100% adoption rate. It's actually going to be tied to your performance review and your bonuses, and probably your future with the company, and you have no choice. completely different. And for King, we can now add this to existing problems like a HR team whose role is, of course, to protect the company, not the staff. That's a common phrase, but it's also a quote in this case. And this has resulted in brutal attrition, in dysfunctional relationships between staff and leadership. And what has Microsoft's corporate influence been? Quite simply, it's been to make a bad situation worse. Microsoft leadership is at odds with the people who are making their products, say the developers who are making the games that you want to play. And the reason why is that games are not really the point of the company. Otherwise, they wouldn't be sacrificing games for AI funding. Quite literally, because we know this was a sacrifice. I'm not being hyperbolic. Windows Central and the Seattle Times both reported the same goddamn thing, that this summer's Microsoft layoffs had one purpose, that it wasn't about cancelling floundering projects. No, the mass layoffs freed up $80 billion for future AI infrastructure investment. Those are the layoffs that hit all of Microsoft, but we do know that Xbox got particularly hammered. And think about that number, $80 billion. That is effectively what Xbox paid for Activision Blizzard King in an all-cash purchase. So if you are a Microsoft executive looking at the financials, basically here's what you see. Xbox bought themselves marginal profitability every year. Good for them! But that same money could have went into AI infrastructure, which is far more profitable, they believe. And that is the problem. Xbox isn't the millstone that it once was. We won't see Satya Nadella deciding between closing or expanding Xbox anytime soon. But what we can see, what we do know, is that Microsoft's interests are not Xbox's interests, or, for that matter, the interests of their players. When Microsoft demands Xbox shows financial value, like the AI division is able to, expensive long-term plans become easy targets. That is how, as an example, Perfect Dark dies, reportedly spiraling towards $270 million before launch. That's how Everwild vanishes, or how a ZeniMax Online MMO that Xbox leadership loved playing gets cancelled. And this explains how they blindly demand layoffs across all levels of seniority, vastly hurting their own output. And even in the best case, obviously, Phil Spencer and Johanna Fares could not stop Microsoft's demands, because the details don't matter to Microsoft. So is it any wonder that Xbox staff are doing whatever they can to oppose them? Why entire game teams, like the World of Warcraft development team, I believe a lot of the Overwatch 2 development team, and also the Diablo development team, while whole groups like that are unionizing so that they can oppose this bullshit. And look, to be clear, I know there are loads of pros about unions and loads of cons about unions. There are stories of unions going well and stories of unions being extremely corrupt, going badly, and even hurting industries in whole countries. I know about that stuff. But here's the thing. We actually need to think. A lot of the time whenever people criticize a large language model, they'll say, it's just an X-word prediction, bro. Well, for a lot of people, they hear union and think, good, I support. Or they hear union and think, bad, I don't support. But here's the thing, it ain't binary. It's different shit in different cases. And in this case, if you don't want slop, I think you should probably support this. Because look, right? You see how this shit's ran over time? The best people who don't want these tools forced upon them, forced being the operative word, well, they're just going to end up quitting, going somewhere else, or being slashed by layoffs. Do you know who in a, let's just say, evolutionary setting like that will be more fit? The yes men, the people who don't really care, who are happy enough to make slop if slop is the result of the company's demands. Does that mean better games for you? I would argue no, it does not. And if some of these teams being able to unionize basically means they can say, actually screw you on this thing we know best and we're going to put up an internal fight, then I think that's probably, in the balance of pros and cons, in this case, a pro. Let me know what you think though, and if you've been impacted by any of this stuff, especially, let me and the rest of us know, because we would love to hear what your experience has been. That's it for now, and if you want to learn about the real rumbly business going on in YouTube that could even be controlling what you do or do not see, watch this video next.